achieving gender equity is one of the greatest opportunities for sustainable development. Yet, women who constitute over 50% of global population continue to face challenges in accessing their rights. Discriminatory laws, an uneven playing field, and unequal opportunities have impacted the well-being and economic inclusion of women in society. The Kenya government has made great progress to level the playing field through its bottom-up economic transformation plan, which is anchored on agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprise, housing, healthcare, and the digital and creative economy. The priority interventions put in place include lowering the cost of living, eradicating hunger, managing unemployment, improving fiscal performance, stabilizing foreign exchange, and ensuring inclusive economic growth. On environment and climate change, the government has committed to reduce carbon emission by 32% by 2030 and increase tree cover to at least 30% by 2032. In support of the government's efforts, the Office of the First Lady through Mama Doing Good, the organization that implements the programs of the First Lady, runs various development programs structured around three strategic pillars, namely women economic empowerment, environment and climate action, and faith diplomacy.
I believe that when women are given the right skills, tools and opportunities, they are able to uplift themselves, their families and their communities for the better. At Mama Doing Good, we work with women and the wider community in supporting, encouraging and challenging them to start with the little they have.
The Women Economic Empowerment Pillar supports women's ability in the access to and control of productive resources, access to decent work and meaningful participation in economic decision-making at all levels. Its flagship program, Joyful Women, which was launched in 2009, is based on the principles of table banking and enables group members to pool their money, save and borrow for livelihood projects based on their contributions. The women are also empowered via capacity building and trade and market access. Karakana provides the raw materials, pays the members and thereafter takes their handicrafts to the market.
But since hizi vitambaa zikuje, nimejikeep busy, unapata ninashona the whole day, nikienda tu kwa ward, nikienda kwa ward ni kulala.
The programs we run have not only enabled women to realize their dreams, but have also empowered and given them the dignity they deserve. We understand that if you empower the woman, you empower everyone around her. And this is the positive transformation we are working towards for our communities and our nation.
The Environment and Climate Action Pillar, launched in 2020, promotes tree growing initiatives, circular, blue and green economy, nature-based enterprise, the reduction of indoor air pollution through clean energy initiatives, and the uptake of non-motorized transport for physical and mental well-being, as well as environment protection. Forest adoption and tree planting initiatives across all events are aimed at supporting Mama Doing Good goal of 500 million trees by 2032, which is in line with the government's National Tree Restoration Campaign goal to grow 15 billion trees by 2032. The Faith Diplomacy Pillar aims to promote family and national values to preserve the moral fabric of our nation. This is done through prayer, compassion, mentorship and reconciliation. It also facilitates access to education and retention of learners in public schools in marginalized communities through provision of school meals.
Women play a vital role in shaping the ecosystems, how they operate and how they grow. It is therefore important that their voice is heard and that we apply a lens that is woman-sensitive and woman-responsive. Their participation in the conversation and in decision-making will contribute to an all-inclusive, people-centered approach as they are always cognizant of those they care for and about. This will ensure that the spaces created for work, play and living are fit for purpose and serve everyone well. This conversation comes at a time when we also need to include a climate-focused approach on how we create cities. For example, the inclusion of green spaces in our communities and the encouragement of non-motorized transport to reduce the impact of carbon emissions on our environment. This will also go a long way in improving our physical and mental health well-being. Thank you.
Jane Masisi. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to redirect your attention to the screens once more. We're about to hear from Her Excellency Emin Erdoğan, First Lady of the Republic of Turkey.
Değerli hanımefendiler, beyefendiler, saygıdeğer katılımcılar, sizleri sevgiyle, saygıyla selamlıyorum. Daha yaşanabilir bir dünyanın inşasında öncü kuruluş olan Birleşmiş Milletler Habitat'ın bu sene ikincisi düzenlenen olağan kurulunun hayırlara vesile olmasını diliyorum. Nazik davetleri için Kenya Devlet Başkanı'nın eşi Rachel Rutto'ya ve dostum Maymuna Şerif başta olmak üzere tüm Birleşmiş Milletler Habitat ailesine şükranlarımı sunuyorum. Dünya nüfusunun büyük çoğunluğunun doğayla ilişkisini kaybetmiş yerleşimlerde yaşamaya mahkum olduğu günümüzde böylesi bir toplantının önemi gerçekten çok büyük. Şehirsel atıklar çoktan doğanın bertaraf edemeyeceği boyutlara ulaştı ve giderek küresel bir tehdide dönüşüyor. Ne yazık ki ortak evimiz dünyamızdaki 8 milyar insanla birlikte bütün canlı yaşamını etkileyen bir tehlikeden bahsediyoruz. Yeryüzündeki tüm canlılar geride varlığının, türünün izini bırakırken biz insanlar medeniyetimizin izlerini bırakıyoruz. Bizden geriye bir yandan muhteşem mimari yapılar ve sanat eserleri kalacak. Ama diğer yandan gelecek kuşaklara çöp dağları ve hatta okyanusta atıklardan müteşekkil 7. bir kıta bırakmak üzereyiz. Oysa doğaya terk ettiğimiz atıkların büyük bir kısmı yeniden kullanılabilecek, ömrünü tamamlamamış ürünlerden oluşuyor. Yeryüzüne bırakacağımız bu izi belirlemek bizim elimizde. İnsanın günlük hayatındaki küçük değişikliklerle, doğa dostu atıksız bir yaşam ile iklim değişikliği hastalığına karşı dünyaya şifa olabiliriz. Türkiye'de başlattığımız sıfır atık hareketinin kısa zaman diliminde ulaştığı üstün başarı, çevre sorunlarında insanın bireysel çabasının önemini tüm dünyaya gösterdi. Bu kazanımlar neticesinde Türkiye'nin liderliğinde Birleşmiş Milletler Habitat'ın değerli desteği ile 30 Mart Uluslararası Sıfır Atık Günü ilan edildi. Birleşmiş Milletler bünyesinde tüm üye ülkelerde sıfır atık hareketine rehberlik edecek bir danışma kurulu tahsis edildi. Doğayı bertaraf edemeyeceği atıklardan kurtarmak için hiç kuşkusuz çok büyük adımlar atıldı. Buna karşın tüketimin amaç haline geldiği bir çağda elbette yolumuz çok uzun. Asıl çarpıcı değişimin kullan at kültüründen uzaklaşarak neredeyse hiç atık üretilmeyen bir yaşam tarzını benimsediğimizde gerçekleşeceğine inanıyorum. Küresel sıfır atık hareketinin ülke ülke, insan insan yayılması o günlerin artık çok da uzak olmadığını gösteriyor. Kıymetli misafirler, elde ettiğimiz başarıyı her şeyden önce halkımızın ve elbette kadınlarımızın projeyi sahiplenmesine borçluyuz. Ülkemizde ve küresel düzeydeki kazanımların kadınların tüm süreçlere etkin bir şekilde katılımını sağlamamız ile gerçekleştiğine inanıyorum. Bir kadın olarak Sıfır Atık Hareketi'nin hamiliğini ve Sıfır Atık Danışma Kurulu'nun başkanlığını yürütüyorum. Yine çevre liderliğiyle dünyaya rol model olmuş başka bir kadın, sevgili dostum Maymuna Hanım ile bu yolda yürümekten büyük bir memnuniyet duyuyorum. Türkçemizde çok sevdiğim bir atasözümüz, yuvayı dişi kuş kurar demektedir. Atalarımız bu söz ile kadınların doğasındaki şefkatle merhamet kadar dönüştürücü gücünü, dirayetini, azmini ve güzellikleri çoğaltma yeteneğini de vurguluyor. Her şey gibi şehirlerimiz de kadınların çevreyi ve toplulukları şekillendirmedeki mahareti sayesinde daha yaşanabilir ve sürdürülebilir mekanlara dönüşüyor. Bu toplantı vesilesiyle bir araya gelen öncü kadınlar ve tüm çevre dostu gönüllüler liderliğinde insanlığa ışık tutacak çözümlerin hayata geçirileceğine yürekten inanıyorum. Yeniden doğa ile dost olduğumuz, tüm canlı ailesiyle uyum içinde yaşadığımız, sürdürülebilir bir geleceği şekillendiren bu buluşmalar hepimizi umutlandırıyor. Bu duygu ve düşüncelerle sözlerime son verirken, Birleşmiş Milletler Habitat II. Olağan Kurulu'nun sonuçlarının insanlığa hayır getirmesini diliyor. Başta Maymuna Hanım olmak üzere emeği geçen herkesi kutluyorum. Her geçen gün daha temiz ve sağlıklı bir dünyaya ulaşmak dileğiyle bir kez daha hepinizi en kalbi duygularla selamlıyorum. Kalın sağlıcakla.
One more round of applause for the First Lady of the Republic of Turkey. And as she said in her remarks, the Turkish proverb, the female bird builds the nest. It absolutely speaks to the criticality and importance of women in building and shaping the communities and cities that they call home. And that is the perfect segue into our next segment of this program. I'd like to shed the spotlight on two incredible women in this room. They live in our communities here in Kenya, and they're making a transformative change where they are. Allow me to introduce them as they make their way on stage. Rose Njoki Muratetu. She currently runs a table banking group of 12 women named Runji Enterprises. And with the capital garnered from 8 months of diligently meeting to pool funds, they plan to open a cyber cafe and later to start a cereals business. She is also the beneficiary of Karakana, which is an initiative aimed at financially empowering vulnerable members in the community, particularly women who have been incarcerated. We also will be hearing from Beatrice Achieng, and she has benefited from the Joyful Women organization, spearheaded, of course, by Her Excellency Mama Rachel Ruto. And her story is incredible, from washing clothes to support her 4 children all on her own, to becoming a certified teacher and owning several rental units. Beatrice is a testament to the strength and abundance of the spirit of a woman with a dream. Can we give them a round of applause as they make their way up?
Your Excellency, Your Excellency, First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, Mama Ruto, all the protocol observed, hello. I'm Beatrice Acheng, I'm a Kenyan. I am a single mother of 4 children, and I am an ECD teacher, trained and registered by TSC. I am a HIV positive. I don't forget to say that. I'm here to talk about the Joyful Women table banking, how it has transformed my life from where I was and where I am today. But before I reach there, I just want to talk just a brief story about my life background, my childhood life background. I was born in a poor family, extreme poverty, and it was a polygamy family. My mom was a second wife, and we are so many children in our family. So our dad was not able to take care of us. Then my mom passed away in 1994 when I was 9 years old. From that year, I really passed a lot. We walked with torn clothes. We walked with torn uniforms. We went to school barefoot. We sometimes missed to go to school because of school fees. We engaged in hard labors at home to get money. Sometimes we went to school without food. We even stayed sometimes for 3 days on an empty stomach. No food, no hope, no everything. Until there is a time, I remember in 1998, when I was 13 years old, my dad introduced me to a man that was his friend, and my dad was owing him 20,000 that he was able to pay back. So this man told my dad that he wanted to marry me as a second wife, and he was my father's age, and I was age of his children. My dad could not object because that was the only option. So my dad convinced me to marry him, only to find that this man was not ready to marry me, but he had just fishy missions about me. This man started to have sex with me when I was 13 years old and I was in class 7. Because he was sometimes coming to school and see the bills that are needed in school, he can pay. He used even to pick me from school and tell a teacher that he's my uncle. He picked me several times until the teacher suspected, are you sure this is your uncle? And then he was picking me from school. He goes, sleeps with me in the bush in some sugarcane plantation, and then gives me either 200 or 100 shillings. But I really needed this money because sometimes we didn't have food at home. So I was accepting to sleep with him for him to give me this money to take home for usage because of poverty. And when I did my class 8, I did my KCP in 1999. And there was no any hope of going to high school. So I came here in Nairobi to look for a job. The work I got, it was a house girl work. I did the work for 2 years, then I got tired, I went back home. And when I went back home, I got, there's a woman who connected me to another man who wanted to marry me. So I entered in the marriage to the man that I didn't know, I didn't love, we never dated. So I settled life, and that time I was 16 years old. The marriage did not work because the marriage was so violent, it was so abusive. I passed through a lot, and I decided to quit because I was almost being killed. And I quit when I had 4 children. Then I came back here in Nairobi, that was in 2011. I went in a slum called Deep Sea. It is in High Range Parklands. I didn't have a job to do. I didn't have any hope in life. I started working, I started washing people's clothes. That was the thing that I was doing to earn a living. Because I had children that I had to feed. I had the rent that I had to pay, and the children were supposed also to go to school. It was so hard for me until it reached a time that I could not afford to pay my rent. And the rent at that time, it was only 1,500 shillings per month because it was a Mabati house. I was struggling so much. And I just want to thank God because of Her Excellency, our First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, because of the vision that God gave her about women. Because she came in High Range, that was in 2014. She gathered all the women in Westlands, those who live in slums, and she told us about the table banking. And I saw the idea was good, and I joined table banking. I joined the Joyful Women Table Banking in 2014. I joined one of the group, and we started saving 200 shillings per month. That was in 2014. From that time, because I was struggling so much to pay the rent, I got a house, a structure, those Mabati structures in Dipsy. I bought one in 2015 at 30,000 shillings. I bought another one in 2018. So I have two structures in Dipsy that today there are some people who are living in and they're paying me rent, that 1,500. Secondly, when I joined table banking, I was enlightened and my mind opened up. When I was a child, I had a dream of becoming a teacher, but along the way, the dream died. So I didn't have hope. I didn't know if I will ever become a teacher. But when I was enlightened, I knew that, I now realized that I can go back to school. So I took myself back to school as a private student in 2015. And in 2017, I did my KCSE, that is Form 4 exam, when I was 32 years old. In 2018, I joined ECD course because the grade I got enabled me to join ECD course. I did my exam in 2020. We did an exam in 2020, October, because of COVID. I got a credit. Last year, I registered by TSC, and today I'm an ECD teacher, though I'm not yet employed by the government. Through Joyful Women and table banking, today my savings are 80,000 since 2015, and I am able to take a loan of about 240,000 because in table banking we take a loan three times of your savings. Through table banking, my children are going to school. I got my firstborn in 2002 when I was 17 years old. And I didn't know if they will learn. But today my son is, he finished high school and he's in Pwani University. He's going to third year. My second-born is in Form 4 and all the rest are learning too. And I also have some other children that I took that I'm helping. They are orphans. 3 children I'm living with, they are going to school and they are learning. And I want to thank God for that. And my vision, my future vision is, I want to continue with my education because I only did certificate. I want to continue to pursue diploma and up to degree. I also, because in Dipsy I was living in a Mabati house, I didn't like that environment because there was no toilet, the environment is dirty. I shifted from Dipsy. I'm living in a block house, though it's a single room, but it's a stone house, it's a good house that there is a toilet, there's water, there's bathroom, and there is electricity. And my plan is also, I want to engage myself into this government housing plan project. I need a good house. I need a good house. So I just hear this argument of 3%, and I want to ask Mr. President, what about us that we are not employed? How can we join that housing plan project? Because you can be able to take loan from our table banking, our chamas, pay the deposit and get a good house. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. My name is Ruth Joki. I met Her Excellency when I was in prison, Langata Women Prison, when Madam Her Excellency came there and introduced a project, Karakana, cross stitch. So that money, she was paying us, actually, and the money helped us a lot to push that. Our children who are helpless, like my children. The father passed when I was still there. They had no education. So that money was pushed us a lot because Madam could put the money to the welfare office and the children could come and get the money. And the kind of work we were doing for cross-stitch, this is a sample for what we were doing. This is a sample of what we were doing. So the money helped us a lot. I don't know how to explain. Because in prison, there are people who are never visited by their people. So that money for Her Excellence helped us. Even for our children, they could come and get the money, go and pay for the rent, that the mothers are not there. The money also helped us in prison, there are no sanitary towels. Sometimes you want to buy milk, you want to do this and this. And that money pushed us a lot for those who are never visited. I don't know how I can thank Her Excellency, because it is not easy to see Her Excellency coming to prisoners, to prison, to see the prisoners. After that, Madam came back, Her Excellency came back to see how the project was going on. She came, and we had a dinner together, imagine, with Her Excellency. We stayed there, we could talk with her, and she left very late, around 10, which is not usual to prison. I thank Madam for considering a poor person. God bless her. After I was released from prison, that is 2020, Madam, Her Excellency invited us, the ex-prisoners, to her house to have a cup of tea. We went there, we had tea together, talking, and Madam Her Excellency introduced us to joyful women, that is table banking. I was interested with the table banking. When I left, I went and started a table banking, where by now I've saved 100,000, and the money has helped me. We meet once a month, we attend. Although I want some more people as we go on. The money has helped me, the money which I came with from prison, and around 50,000. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Her Excellency. God bless you. So that money helped me a lot. So when we went for a cup of tea to her house, when she introduced us about the joyful women, I was interested. I went and started mine, and I opened a company called Roji Enterprises. So I'm doing serious, although it's a bit difficult. I am doing serious, although it's a bit difficult, but I thank God for what I am. So I don't know. I thank God for that. So, Madam, the project which is going on for the government project, we thank you, and if we only I could be assisted and get a house, I would be very happy, because even my children are jobless. I'm sick. You can see how I'm working. I have nothing. My children have no job. Madam, Her Excellency, if you consider that, I'll be happy, because Her Excellency, you are a God-fearing. And God bless you. Bless you. I don't know how many blessings I'll give you. God bless you and bless you. Thank you.
One more round of applause for Beatrice and Rose. Inspiring stories there. How many of us can say we had dinner, let alone tea, with the First Lady? But thank you so much for your inspiring stories. At this juncture, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, allow me to invite Her Excellency, Mama Rachel Ruto, the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, to make her remarks.
Thank you. We may be seated. President of the Assembly, Honorable Roman Mayor Falcon, Ms. Maimuna Sharif, Under Secretary General and Executive Director, United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Mheshimiwa Njeru, representatives from national and local governments of Kenya, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural First Lady Roundtable at the second UN Habitat Assembly. And for the visitors, I believe you are enjoying our Kenyan hospitality. Receive warm greetings from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, who was here yesterday. Thank you, Executive Director Maimuna and the entire United Nations fraternity for your warm welcome to the United Nations office in Nairobi. I am honored to host the inaugural First Lady Roundtable, a forum to share, discuss, and agree on various approaches that will raise the profile of sustainable urban development through the voice and agency of women. The theme of today's roundtable is Women Shaping Cities and Communities, a topic that recognizes the role of women as enablers of our cities and communities to thrive as a whole. The story of Beatrice and Rose are an example of what resilience and belief in moving forward despite whatever circumstances you are in is important, and the fact that no one else can do it for you but yourself. Think of how the story of Beatrice would be if the city had her in mind. We would have wider streets because she's thinking of what it takes to hold at a minimum 2 children on each side of her as they walk home from school. The city would have paved roads that she and her family can walk on, or riding with the kids, especially on weekends as they unwind as family. Beatrice is a teacher in one of the informal settlements in Nairobi, and the children in her class have no playground. How about a walk in the park, and for the learners to play at the swings and run around in green open spaces? That kind of space and activities reminds me of my growing up days. Growing up in Kakamega County, we shared the one broken bike with my siblings on the rural roads. We would have the time of our lives as we went rolling at high speed down the valley, many times with no brakes. The feeling of joy and freedom was priceless. Ladies and gentlemen, such cities are possible if we commit to be inclusive and sustainable. Vienna City is an example we can learn from as we think of how our cities and communities can be more sustainable, especially with women in mind. Vienna's government has made the city safer and a more convenient place for women after incorporating a gender lens into urban design. Improvement of public facilities, including improving street lighting, made parks more accessible to young girls, widened pavements, and designed neighborhoods helped meet the social needs of women. Kenya has made its positive strides through street lighting in conjunction with the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, modernized markets with some having daycare facilities, remodeled public parks, and walking and cycling lanes in some of our major towns. The woman is the mirror of the society. If she is marginalized, the community is oppressed. If strengthened, the community is empowered. Women must be at the table when planning for our cities and communities. A woman in the society atom, indeed, without her nothing would exist. I believe that if women are given the right opportunities and tools, they have the power to uplift themselves and their communities. This is the reason why I advocate for and insist that women must be at the center of shaping cities and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, SDG 11 focuses on making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. More than 50% of the world's population live in cities, and by 2050, an estimated 7 out of 10 people will likely live in urban areas. In developing countries, this increase continues to be driven by rural-urban migration in search of employment and business opportunities. Cities are key drivers of economic growth globally and contribute more than 80% of global GDP. A growing younger generation is another key driver for urban population growth. This urban population explosion has resulted in several challenges, such as insufficient housing, the growth of informal settlements, inadequate solid waste management, to name but a few. Green spaces and tree cover are greatly affected in an effort to make room for human settlements. There is an increase in air and noise pollution and carbon emission from motor vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, the local scenario is not different from the global experience. Urbanization is changing how Kenyans live. It is estimated that by 2030, 34% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. Kenya has a deficit of 200,000 houses annually, and the government is encouraging investments in affordable housing. Affordable housing is a key part of the government's bottom-up economic plan, with a goal to restore the dignity of informal settlement dwellers. It's every woman's goal to own a house and have the security that her family has an assurance of a decent roof over their head. The Kenyan government has a plan to grow the number of affordable mortgages from the current 30,000 to 1 million by 2032. Devolution, for instance, in Kenya has seen urban migration diluted from the capital city to county headquarters by creating opportunities for employment and investment. Government investment in affordable and sustainable transport systems, the upgrade of transport infrastructure are key for better management of urban areas. Mama Doing Good has launched several programs to positively shape our cities and communities. I shall delve deeper into the thematic areas during the roundtable discussion. I'm confident that the outcomes from today's dialogue shall go a long way in supporting and attaining SDG 11, which is about sustainable cities and communities, and through SDG 5, which is equality. We shall amplify the voice of our women through involving them in the pursuit of inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable communities. With those few remarks, I wish to officially launch the First Lady Roundtable and look forward to our engagement towards enhancing sustainability of our cities and communities. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and may God bless you.
One more round of applause for Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, Mama Rachel Ruto. And as she said in her speech, we are amplifying the voices of women. Our next presentation comes from a Botswana poet. Her name is Changwangwa Dema. She is the author of The Careless Seamstress and the winner of the Sillerman First Book Prize. Can we give her a hearty round of applause as she makes her way up?
Thank you, Victoria, for that introduction and for observing all protocols. Dumelang, good morning. I am honored to be here with you today as you consider these pressing issues around women shaping cities and communities. The poetic text that I have chosen to share with you today is, of course, an occasion poem, rather than a traditionally lyrical or typical poem, but I trust that you will find some measure of music as well as meaning within its language. This is a common interest. 1. What will we tell our daughters when they ask us? When years from now they say to us, where were the women? When the faces staring at them from history books and monuments and fancy phones still look nothing like them, what will we tell them when the word place does not seem to include them? If it is culture which keeps us here, hesitant, shadow-like, tied to less than $2 a day and not some chain of habit masquerading as tradition, then our choices will survive these questions. There are rights gifted to each of us at birth, not least of which should be a life worth living, health and happiness, equal, at least until gravity and DNA's lottery drag forth voice box or breast. Then suddenly sanity clambers back down between appendage and good sense. Only we who claim the word woman can inhabit this war-torn skin and call it home. I have heard young girls, tomorrow's women, whisper to each other. They say mothers must choose carefully the tongues with which they do not speak to their daughters. The things we do not say often mean and say more than we ever could. This is how we are made invisible, vulnerable. I meant to write you a poem, but there are those who will say that a silent woman is a gift from God, that poems are not meant to be sung out loud like the words women whisper to a young bride about the pride to be found in silence. I say sing, poem. Sing your song any way you know how, any way you know would seem loud in this quiet. Because until it is not one woman plucked, made exceptional, while the rest of her tribe labors under some invisible cloak, until it is as commonplace as the rising of the sun, then we must all stay with the trouble of doing better. If we all say, what trouble I see is not mine, if we are faithful only to ourselves, what shall we tell those daughters when they ask, what of everyone else? 2, the architect must decide, shelter or settlement, play or pause, hurry past or feel lost. She must ask what makes a city livable. Do bricks and mortar without breath, without blood pulsing in giggling childish bodies make a life worth living? When we see a house with large cracks building homes in its walls, we wonder at its foundations. Let us wonder now at our own. Let us ask, what will we tell her? 3, I did not mean to speak so heavily of such matters. Instead, I meant to write you a poem, all of you. I meant to say to you that you have only to look around to know that you have done something well. But the words are their own God. They come how and when they please, and today they choose to leave me with nothing more to say except that if it were enough to stand here and say absolutely nothing, then perhaps we would do away with poems and words and summits such as these. But it is not enough for a life to be called lived and to not show the princes and ourselves that there is no damsel in distress. We are all in crisis. She too is fetching and laying, hauling pen and paper and brick. Tell them that we have always been builders and fire people. We too are the keepers of the realm. It is our hand at the helm, and there is no end to our story. But I really did mean to write you a poem, the happiest poem in the world, to lay it down brick by brick, to set before you a window through which to see your cities, their familiar faces, floors and doors, your marketplaces and hospital corridors. I wanted to write you a poem, but what time is given us is borrowed, precious, and this one earth, this one home given us is where we must name each other, hold each other. For we are not static, we sprawl, transform, we are haulers and diggers, dragging and lifting. Our paths meet and cross, diverge and re-meet at a common interest, to serve, to listen to voices that may not second our own. Here, today, in this room, we are all of us architects of the heart. We must listen to the dirt and the dirge, the cultured and the quirky, to the stroller and the stranger, to the one saying, and me, where do I belong? Like water, our design must take the shape of their desires. For here we are at another beginning, another foundation. So I ask you, what measures and markers shall we put in place? Out of these trenches, our boots and heels knee-deep in mud and making, we must wonder how level our gaze is. What shall we remove and what shall we keep? What string shall we choose? Will it be telling or listening? Who will dig and who will pour? This is where we split open or hold tight. For history should not only remember kings, it should remember all those who dare to tell their story. I ask you now, will you finally give us something to remember, something to tell our daughters? Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, that was Chawangwa Dema, a Botswana poet from Botswana. Thank you so much. We will now get into our round table discussion. Allow me to quickly make my way to the front stage. And this discussion will focus on the key role of women. That has been a current theme and recurring theme in the speeches and the deliberations today of how women are shaping the cities and communities that they call home. So allow me to invite on stage with me Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, Mama Rachel Ruto. As well as the UN Habitat Executive Director, Madam Maimuna Mohamed Sharif. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you both for joining me. You may take your seats. Thank you. Your Excellency, let me begin with you. You cycled over 10 kilometers this morning from State House all the way to the UN complex. And many are wondering, with the elements, because it was raining at that time, why did you do that?
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you. Thank you so much, Victoria. So cycling has really been part of my life. I grew up in Western Province. That was the former Western Province, now Kakamega County. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Victoria. So actually we've cycled this morning about 10.8 kilometers. I was born in Western Kenya, and you know, what we do in Western Kenya, in Kakamega County especially, is we love cycling. So growing up, we had a small bicycle my father had bought, like for my older siblings, and we kept passing it from one person to another. So I learned cycling, and the passion never left me. So many years later, after I came to the city of Nairobi, I bought a bicycle also, and I continued cycling. But what really happened was during COVID-19, we realized that everybody was locked, and there was nothing much that was happening. So I got the community around where I lived, and we started a cycling community with the young people and just the neighbors. And so we have been cycling from that time. and we called it Mama Cycling. And of course, many other things followed because we realized that as we were cycling in the streets or the roads of Kenya, we realized that there was no cycling paths, for the cyclists. We were actually sharing the road with the motorists. And many other times you'd be pushed off the road. And so we thought this will not just be about cycling, but at least it's good so that we can at least become advocates of a just road system in Kenya. And of course, issues of environment, because you realize that when you cycle, there's no much emission, the pollution that we emit into the environment. So we thought, of course, we could continue cycling. And now we have a very big community, and we've just joined many cyclists in Kenya because already there were other communities cycling.
Before I bring Madam Edie on, let me ask you this. Your video shared a lot about your organization, Mama Doing Good. How did it all begin?
Mama Doing Good actually began with what Beatrice talked about, which is the Joyful Women Organization, a dream that I got about 25 years ago. And I was in the rural areas, and I saw a woman that did not have shoes, yet was very happy. And so I wondered what we could do to really help this woman. And in 2009, through the help of the then Poverty Eradication Commission by the government, we established Joyful Women Organization, which is a table banking program that brings together women to do table banking, like to have a bank on the table. And so from the Joyful Women, we have moved on into the Mama Cycling, and now we are doing environment, and all our programs are under the Mama Doing Good. We just want to do good, Victoria. And in Mama Doing Good, we say we do it the right way, because sometimes you may be doing good that you don't do it the right way. So that is how Mama Doing Good was established in 2021, to bring together all the programs when I was the spouse of the Deputy President and now the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Madam Edie, you mentioned in your speech that we only have 7 years left to achieve the commitments of the SDGs, not a long time. What do you suggest we can do to ensure that no one is left behind, and especially women?
Thank you very much, Victoria, for that question. I think we are less than 7 years left. I remember I even calculated the number of days when in my closing speech during the World Urban Forum in Katowice last year. I think what from the example that we have seen just now, from the video, and then from the poet, and also from the life example that Beatrice and another madam who came up and shared the life story, I think what we need is that leadership. Leadership is very, very important in whatever that we want to achieve. Leadership that put people at the center. Leadership that is not in a way that is brave enough to go to the ground and engage with everyone. I think that is what we are here when we look into this UN Habitat Assembly 2. We're also looking into the engagement. That's why the theme is like the sustainable urban future and true effective and efficient multilateralism. When you talk about multi-level decision making, it's from the global, from the national, from the regional, and also to the local. Do you have seen the life example from Excellency Mama Rachel Ruto, from the First Lady of Botswana, and also the First Lady of Turkey? I think this is very important in terms of, one is leadership and commitment and political will. Second is the engagement, the participation of women in the decision making in every stage, either is at the community stage, at the city stage, or even at the country level and the global level. I think this is the participation of women. That's why the Secretary General he's want to see that at every level in the UN there must be at least 50-50. At my level, he already reached 50. Now it's on my burden to make sure that at the UN Habitat there must be 50-50. So that is in terms of participation. And third is that we have to look into the giving them the space. What I meant the space here is that for them, for the women to really give the space to share their talent, because as Excellency Mama Rachel Russo mentioned just now, that half of the population will live in cities, and in our studies, more than 50% of the world population will be women. And you can see that if we don't give these women opportunity, is a loss of opportunity, a loss of labor, a loss of knowledge and talent. So I think we need to be inclusive and giving them the space. So my answer is that leadership, commitment, political commitment, and participation, and giving them the opportunity and the space for women. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam ED. Your Excellency, the last 2 days, the conversations have been around shaping sustainable communities and cities. When you talk about the work that Mama Doing Good is actually doing, what does it look like when it comes to making that happen, shaping sustainable cities and communities?
I think it is possible, Victoria, just like the issues we have seen even Beatrice and Rose talk about. We see every woman desires to live in a city and desires to live in a good house. And so if, like my sister Maimuna has said, you know, policies would come, for example, the cycling we have done this morning, just making sure that, you know, we have pavements for cyclists and pedestrians, and issues of what the First Lady of Turkey has said, you know, issues of waste management, then everybody would live in a good environment. Issues of greening spaces in the cities, and, you know, even just our children, the way I talked about, you know, every child, you know, has a tricycle, you know, teaching our children how to cycle. Then I think if we have clean cities, then I think we will shape this conversation we are talking about today.
Absolutely. Madam ED, you talked about having more participation of women at every level, and how important it is to have them there and their presence. But can you tell us a bit more about UN Habitat and what it's doing to empower more women leaders in the cities and the communities?
Thank you so much. In UN Habitat, and I personally am a woman and an urban planner, and I believe that a city planned by women for women is also a city planned and safe for men. Do you agree with me? Because if it's safe for women, definitely safe for men. So that is the indicators. So in UN Habitat, we are dealing a lot of urban planning, urban design. We give expertise to the cities, to the member state in terms of planning, in terms of urban design, in terms of guidelines of safe city, or guidelines on resilient city, or a guideline on healthy city, where we work together with World Health Organization, for example, on healthy city. We work together with UNICEF on the safe city for children. We work also together with FAO on the urban farming. So to me is that UN Habitat, we have two ways of looking at it. One is on our normative work. We prepare the guideline. We also give this expertise. We did also sharing and helping the government and the cities to do their city planning. Because what Excellency Mama Rachel Rutu mentioned just now, if you don't design the city for cycling, can you cycle? And if you don't design, I remember that when she mentioned that you would like to hold the hand of the Beatrice want to like to hold the hands of the two children when coming back from school. If we don't have the pedestrian walkways, we cannot do that. So I think this is the work of UN Habitat, and we also would like to share. We have the Her City tools, apps. Maybe you can download Her City 2 apps, where we develop to engage the women how to design and how to plan their own cities. That is one. And second is also we have the program on the public spaces. We engage with community, we engage with the women, how to make the public space for example, like safe for women. And in our work also in I would like to share with you our work in Afghanistan. When we work on giving the land title, we also managed to convince the government to put in the wife name on the land title. And I was pleasantly impressed when I went to Afghanistan when we want to give to issue the land title. And on the stage there is one man and there is two ladies walking behind. I said, why there is two ladies there? Because this man have two wives. So even the man has two wives, the two wife name is on the land title. So this is the work on our global land tool network. I can give you many other examples that we are doing at the moment now. And what we would like to do is that in all our program on the ground, I already put the checklist. How is this relate to the women participation? Our program on the ground, we have around 90, served within 90 countries. So during the approval of the program, one of the checklists is how much that how can this program elevate or strengthen or give more opportunity for women, not only to use, but also to be actively involved in terms of social, economic, or even psychology, because now mental health is very, very important also these days. So these are the areas, both normative and also the operational part of our work on the ground. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Madam ED. Let me come to you, Your Excellency, as we wrap up this round table. And how do you leverage your position as First Lady of Kenya to scale up, to enhance the program's outreach across the communities in this country?
Thank you, Victoria. So what we are doing in the office of the First Lady is just following on the footsteps of the President, especially on the bottom-up economic agenda for the country. And that is why you can see in our programs, everything is trying to lift the person that is at the bottom of the pyramid. So when you look at the women economic empowerment that we do, where we have 12,000 groups across the country, you've heard Rose talk about her group, Beatrice has her group. Those are just 2 groups in the city, but we have about 12,000 groups across the country. So we are doing women economic empowerment just to empower that woman, you know, with financial inclusion, financial health, livelihoods, trade, and MSc, and so on and so forth. And the other thing, of course, is on the environment and climate action. So we are teaching the women that they need to take care of the environment. Of course, you know that the President has the restoration program on the trees to plant 15 billion trees by 2032. So at the Office of the First Lady, we are going to be planting 500 million trees, and we have already started planting several of them. In fact, this week, we are going to Kakamega Forest, where I've adapted 200 hectares, about 500 acres, and we are going to be planting 30,000, you know, just to support, you know, the government program. And issues of also just mercy works, you know, working in the informal settlements, you know, helping like children like those ones of Beatrice, because we realize that many children in the informal settlements fend for the family instead of going to school. So we have a school feeding program where we feed public schools. And so we have seen an influx into the schools because now there is food. And in the process of the children getting food, they get an education. And you know, Victoria, they say education is an equalizer. You can see the story of Beatrice just because she has added to her education. Now she's an ECD teacher, and that is the story we want for all our communities. Also in my office, we have what we call the 5 C's, and what we do is to convene, connect, collaborate, catalyze, and celebrate. So I'm working with spouses of our members of parliament, our governors, our senators, our clergy. I'm just working with women in general to be able to convene meetings for them, to be able to collaborate with them. And one of the things that we are collaborating with all the spouses is actually on environment and climate action, because it's no longer a luxury. It's no longer like, you know, something that we thought we could just do as CSR and just do something on the side. But we are very deliberate, because in Kenya, we experienced the worst drought that we had not had for 40 years. And this is as a result of the environmental issues. So that is what we are doing in my office, and we continue to do the work that we've been doing with women economic empowerment. We have added environment and climate action and issues of faith diplomacy, which has mercy works, and working with our young people. So it's an exciting space, and we know that we have many partners that we are collaborating with. UN Habitat is one of them. That is why we are here today, just to be in this conversation of shaping cities and really telling women to be able to sit on the table in order to shape their cities. So that is what we are doing.
Thank you so much. Can I get a round of applause for my distinguished panel, Her Excellency, Mama Rachel Ruto, First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, and the UN Habitat Executive Director, Maimuna Sharif. Thank you so much. You may take your seats. Wonderful. And at this juncture, I believe we have an intervention from the floor. As I mentioned earlier in the program, we have Honorable Filda Kereng, the Minister for Environment and Tourism from the Republic of Botswana. You may take the podium to make a few remarks.
Thank you so very much, Madam Moderator. May I respect Your Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, my friend, Executive Director, UN Habitat, distinguished guests, I greet you this morning. Habari za asubuhi. I thought I spoke good Kiswahili. I'm just going to, let me appreciate the opportunity to make some intervention as the Minister of Environment and Tourism, which also is benefiting quite a lot from these discussions, and to also appreciate the presentations and the messages that we have been getting from the First Ladies, just to demonstrate that building cities just requires the right positioning of women. And once we have done that, and they lead it from the highest topmost level of leadership in their countries, we can see we are going the right direction. Let me make a few remarks and say that the women and environment and habitats and settlements and planning for economic, livelihood, social advancement, this assembly is going to help us actually to do much, much better. The issue of housing, ensuring that women at home are safe, they are secure, and they can thrive as mothers, as wives to their husbands, and as community builders. The attention to proper housing is very critical, and we want to appreciate every effort all nations are actually giving attention to ensure that people, first of all, wake up from a safe environment. Then they can go to work, they can lead, they can go and do business, and they can actually live and live longer. The attention of this thematic general assembly on the issue of ensuring that women, women in trade and livelihood endeavors can actually thrive in those vocations. We see women in poverty, like we've already mentioned, Your Excellencies, that women have to feed their families, they have to get food, they have to get incomes, and thank you for your testimony, Madam, how you managed to actually travel through the hard surfaces for you to be able to be where you are. They go to the farms, they collect farm produce, they need to sell it to get money to buy uniform and to buy food and other things. Are they safe in the spaces where they have to move from one place to the other, go to the bush, some of them to collect wild products, wild fruits in our country, we have a lot of, they have to collect firewood, they have to collect different kinds of products from the veld, from the forest. Are they safe to come home and find their families and provide for them? We're talking about, planning for ease of doing business, ease of trading. We have women in my country who have to travel across the borders to South Africa to buy products to come and sell. Is transportation, is ease of movement, allowing them to do so. And when they come back with those products, they are trading along the streets, in open areas. Climate change issues, rain is coming, Will they trade that day? If they don't trade because the space is not safe for them, it's going to be raining and windy, will the food that they prepare, along the streets, be assisted by a clean environment where I'll be able to comfortably buy that food, and eat? Are they accessible in terms of the spaces where they trade? Can business thrive for them in the neighborhoods? Or they have to travel kilometers with a wheelbarrow, with a whole load of stuff in their head and a baby just to go and sell the products they have? This is the things that you want to acknowledge, that, what we have been hearing for the First Ladies is that these are things that have to be attended by policy, by strategic intentional programs, and also by support. We're talking about, the importance of women in leadership. When women have the place in leadership, then they plan from their heart and from the proper knowledge, adequate knowledge, full knowledge of what it takes, to be able to bring a family, a community, and a nation to the right standard of living, enforcing justice and speaking out and be able to be relevant in decision making. So the issues of poverty, vulnerability to gender-based abuse, being excluded from mainstream programming, the weight of responsibility, safety, and sometimes, the conflict between law enforcement, national planning, sometimes when we have to, exact bylaws, evicting people from spaces, do we put attention to the fact that we are evicting women who just have to make a living for that day? So law enforcement policies must also, be in sync with the need of women. I want to touch on very briefly on thematic interventions, just to summarize and to add my voice to it. Cities for all that are responsive and resilient and adapted to climate change, conditions. Being able to have the right infrastructure, do we have the right roads, the bridges? Can people actually move easily, from one place to the other? Do we have the right connectivity in terms of different settlements where, to come from one area or one side of the city to another, it's with ease? And are they accessible if you need to buy their products, or they have to get their products, to the market? And also to talk about the safety in the trading spaces and living spaces, where we talk about robberies, we talk about, petty crimes, health and sanitation, as I've already mentioned. Inclusive planning, I said, women shaping cities, they will shape it with knowledge, with experience, with a heart and a passion to see life being balanced for all. The importance of research and data, we cannot leave it not emphasized. What do we know about the changing trends about where women and men coexist, and what are the figures in terms of, indicators that we want to achieve, and how can we report on what interventions are able to give us? So we need to make sure that we can attend to the issue of research, data, policy reforms, strategic programs, and investments. I think there was an issue about where should we put investments in terms of achieving, women, gender, balanced and just society in action for economic development. We need to invest in the health of women and girls, and ultimately of families and communities and the nation. We know that there is rising mental health issues now. We need to make sure that health, attends to building, the health resilience of women. We also need to attend to issues of confidence, self-esteem, the sense of beauty and worth. You can't have a woman thriving if they don't believe they can do it. But us as leaders, we must be able to assist women and girls to understand that they can, that they have it, and they are able, and then we must be able to provide that support. We also need to invest on protection, because protective environments are key. In Botswana, we have a toll-free line, based only focusing on gender-based reporting, so people are can easily access, police services, health, and so forth when there are incidences. And we also have invested in specialized courts, just dealing with gender-based violence cases. We also have gender and child protection branches within the police services and standard operating procedures. So investments in institutional reforms, institutional structures, where we have, additional or targeted services that need resourcing, like manpower, like finances, and so forth. Also, the issue of gender-based violence, as it grew, or it rose during COVID-19, we realized the need for more safe centers. where women or abused or victims can actually be protected while services are being sought out for them. Technology and innovation, how can we leverage into that? Child care centers, resourcing NGOs and CBOs, non-state actors, so that they have the capacity to help us to advocate and also deliver services to others, like the projects we have been hearing about. We also need to invest in economic empowerment programs, because we realize that when we empower women economically, there will be less dependence on perpetrators, where the case is like that. So economic empowerment programs like what I heard about the banking thing, access to finance, access to investments, access to, money in pesa, so that people can just be able to thrive in their lives. I think I would want to round up by saying that, leadership and leaders, first ladies and us all, must take it upon themselves to help others to reach where we are, so we can influence decisions. So young girls and women are waiting for us to actually help us lead them along and show them the way. And I want to encourage UN Habitat, first ladies, that let's work on programs that can collate documentaries, success stories, projects, those toolkits that can help people to access direction and guidance. And let us also work on programs that can help us, do exchange programs, inspire one another, connect the continent, within the continent, sub-regions. Let us rise so that we can be able to work together. Make openings for us as leaders, for you as leaders, to connect with others around the world, so that we can enhance this level of influence. We have young girls and women who need to be healed because they have gone through abusive, experiences. So the healing of such, I just want to say that I am encouraged and much inspired, because as the Minister of Environment, the project that the First Lady of Kenya is doing on environment and climate change, I'm going to run after it, so that we get help. We are going to get ideas and knowledge from you, and we want to be able to connect with you on that line through our First Lady, so that we are going to start a new campaign on tree planting, and these ideas are just fit for what you want to do. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so inspired, and I think that we are all. We want to emphasize the fact that to build a city with women first takes building the women as cities, because women are cities of life. So if we clean them out of all the things that are not supposed to be, and we empower them, and we make them beautiful, and we make them, strong entities, then they will rise up and build cities with us. God bless you. Thank you very much.
One more round of applause for Honorable Filda Kereng, Minister for Environment and Tourism from the Republic of Botswana. Your Excellency, distinguished delegates, as we come to the close of this inaugural First Ladies Roundtable, a few takeaways that stuck out from the conversations and speeches that we had this morning. First, women's access to housing, to land, to property rights is not a nice to have. It's an absolute necessity. Secondly, cities that are planned with women and girls result in cities that work for every one of us. And lastly, promoting women's leadership and economic empowerment through partnerships and impact investing is a non-negotiable if we are to see cities that are truly equal and truly inclusive. And I want to leave you with a beautiful reminder from nature and the Turkish proverb that it is the female bird that builds the nest. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your host and moderator for this session. My name is Victoria Rubadiri. Have a lovely rest of the day.